Language, from acquisition to application. Imagine what this world would be without language. Imagine that we are merely biological creatures, roaming around this planet without knowing how to express what we think and feel. That we biologically develop without acquiring language at birth. Can you imagine? If you can, then I can't. I refuse to imagine a world without language. A human with no language. Because the absence of it means no human development. However, as you can see, we develop. And this is proof that language is an integral part of humanity. It is human creation. We create words, sounds, signals, and gestures to convey what we think and feel. We do this consciously and unconsciously, and even at our earliest stage, language is present. This idea leads me to the question, can you still remember how young are you when you say your first words? If you can, then that's a good thing, because it is very rare for people to remember their first utterances. Most of us do not recall our first words because we are very young when we say them. It gives us an idea that there is already a process of language learning in early childhood. And this process is what we call first language acquisition. In this speech, I will discuss three main points. The first topic is the different stages and developmental sequences of children's language acquisition. Second, I am going to talk about the various theories and the explanation of first language acquisition. The last topic is I will relate how these previously mentioned topics are relevant into becoming a professional in the field of the English language. First language acquisition and language per se have ignited the interest of linguists and psychologists over the years. As early as their first 3 years, children can already manage to produce words and combine them to create sentences. Although the sentences they say lack basic grammatical morphemes, people around them can still understand what they mean with their simple words. They can say no, refuse, or reject things that they do not like with a single word or sentence that expresses negation. At this stage, the children also learn to ask questions. What's fascinating is these questions undergo several stages before they reach a form that is understood clearly. During the preschool years, at the age of 4, it is ordinarily acknowledged that children can already ask questions, apprise stories even if it is a product of their imagination, and ascertain real happenings using correct syntax sentences. At this stage, the children's language mastery improves when they are exposed to new and formal environment like school. Because at school, children have the freedom to develop the language as they engage in different lectures, activities, and experiences that enables them to expand their understanding of it. School also exposes them to reading, which makes them realize that language is a form, and these forms convey various meanings. Throughout the school years, children learn to use an appropriate register, depending on the association or situation they are situated in. Each child comes from a different family, place, and cultural background. The differences in these factors are the reason children need to adapt to a new variety of languages offered at school. So to put it succinctly, all these elucidations of language development from infancy to the stage of early school years corroborate the fact or the knowledge that regardless of age, children acquire in their language development. Now, you will wonder how these developments transpire. Today, I will share theories about which factors are credible to believe when it comes to first language acquisition. Is it imitation, innate ability, or interaction that enables children to obtain their first language? In connection with this, Three theories explain first language acquisition. First off, B.F. Skinner's behaviorist perspective, or behaviorism theory, states that imitation and practice are fundamental processes involved in language acquisition. This theory emphasizes the role of the environment and the model in shaping children's language behavior, as they are the primary source of everything that the children need to develop the language. Another theory that explains first language acquisition is Noam Chomsky's innatism theory. According to him, human language is innate, and like other biological processes in our body, it develops naturally. This theory is also quite similar to the critical period hypothesis, as they both assert that humans are genetically programmed to acquire language, and the environment only plays a minor role in the development of the language acquisition. Language acquisition is also a product of children's exposure to their environment through interaction. This viewpoint is the main idea of the interactionist or developmental perspective. This theory tells that all the essentials that the children need to develop their language are already available in the language that they are exposed to as they hear it from the interaction they experience. Children can advance their language excellence through social interactions and exposure to an interactive environment. All of these theories have different claims and explanations of how language acquisition takes place in children. Personally, all of them are rational and credible. However, if I focus on a single theory, it will not be enough to explain the complexity of the language acquisition process. So, I integrate all of them to gain a deeper understanding of it. In my perspective, it's a combination of imitation, innate ability, and interaction. Since there is a specific part of our brain that makes us acquire language, we develop this ability through interactions with our environment and other people. And through constant interaction, we adapt their language and start to imitate it. However, we do not just imitate their language word by word. We do selective imitations. We only emulate those that make sense to us. And through practice, our language improves. So instead of focusing on a single theory, don't you think it's better to use all of them? As I have said earlier, this speech has three main points. I have already discussed the first two topics, and now we are down to the last one. How relevant is learning about language acquisition into becoming a professional in the field of the English language? I'll tell you, very important. Learning about the process of language acquisition plays a vital role in inscribing us with fundamental foundations of how to use language effectively. If we have prior and in-depth knowledge of how our language evolved, we can use this as an advantage, especially in the field of the English language. Although people in the Philippines are also considered English-speaking, we cannot deny the fact that most of us are not adept at speaking the language. Acquiring another language is difficult. But since we already know how first language acquisition happens, second language acquisition will not be that hard anymore because there is a similar pattern to both. Once we already master the usage of the English language, we can be confident to pursue a career in this field. As a Bachelor of Arts in English language student, I am open to the possibility of pursuing a career in linguistics. This knowledge that I gain through understanding language acquisition will surely benefit my career in the future. It will serve as a backbone of my professional development, mainly because a linguist studies language and the factors that influence its use. In the opening of this speech, I ask you to imagine a world without language. A human with no language. I elaborate on the different stages and developmental sequences in children's language acquisition. Theories from different perspectives are present as an explanation. I relate how I will use this knowledge that I gained through understanding language acquisition in the profession that I will pursue in the future. Among all of this, one thing is common: language. They all revolved around language, from our acquisition down to its application of it. It is fundamental to learn everything about language because it is our way of connecting with others. It is so powerful that the absence of it means the loss of humanity because humans and language are one. Thank you for listening to my speech. I hope that all of you here are also able to realize and appreciate the power and beauty of language as I did. But if you fail to do so, let me help you by leaving you this question to ponder. Can you imagine how different your life will be if during your childhood you failed to acquire language?